Hello and welcome to Transmitting Until Robots Replace Us. My name is Drew, call sign AC3DS. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about the NanoVNA and how to set it up and calibrate it. Now, if you've just purchased the NanoVNA, it's new to you, you may be saying, wait a second, why do I need to calibrate something that I just purchased? Well, the short of it is that it's a precision instrument, and as a precision measurement tool, it needs to be accurate. I mean, you want the readings on it to be accurate. But because the way in which it measures different properties of a wire, of the standing wave ratio, of the radiating patterns, because of all of the means by which it does what it does, are based around the hardware that's inside of this little box, it has to be able to also be smart enough to recognize that there can be error that creeps in, and especially error at different frequency ranges. What is true for the range from, say 3 megahertz to 30 megahertz may not be true from, say, 500 to 1.2 gigahertz. So really, when you're calibrating it, you're just helping it to perform as optimally as it can. Now, the nice thing about this is that the calibration is fairly easy. You can do it once ahead of time. You can do a few different calibrations so that it knows what those particular parameters are, those particular variables are that could be causing error to creep in. And it can be saved, and you can go about your merry way and use it effectively. So let's do that. Let's dive into how to set up the NanoVNA from the beginning and how to calibrate it. When you first turn on the NanoVNA, there is a lot that is happening. There's all of these graphs, lines, all sorts of stuff that's happening. And despite all of that and our desire to quickly want to make sense out of all of it, there is one thing that we need to make sure is set first and foremost. And that is, we're going to need to make sure that we are on the correct channel. So I'm going to tap on the screen, I'm going to go to Display, and I'm going to go to Channel. And I'm going to make sure that S11 Reflect is chosen. Now, S11 is indicated up here in the top corner, and it's highlighted, and so I know that it is in fact selected. And S11 deals with the ratio of reflected power to forward power, and it's how the NanoVNA does a lot of its measurements, right? And how it makes determinations and is able to give you a readout. So a lot of it's based off of that ratio. So now that we have that figured out, that channel selected, we need to go ahead and set the frequency range. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tap on the screen again. Then we're going to go to, we're actually going to go to back. We're going to go back again, sorry, back. And now we're going to go to stimulus. And from stimulus, we're going to choose start. And we're going to choose a frequency range of 1 megahertz. And we're going to choose a stop frequency of, let's say, 500 megahertz. Now that's really a very big, wide range of frequencies, but that's okay. That's where we want to start this process. Now let's go ahead and clean up the screen a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on it again. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to display. I'm going to go to trace. And then I'm just going to double tap on each one of these different traces, starting down here with trace 3. And that turns off trace 3, turns off trace 2, turns off trace 1, and now I have just trace 0 selected. And you can tell what trace 0 is currently set to. It's set to a delay reading. That's what it's looking at. That's what it's analyzing. And that's not what I want it to be, though. But we're going to leave it turned on for the moment. We're going to change that. We're going to make it SWR. So now back here on this menu, I'm going to choose Format, and I'm going to choose SWR. because that particular one was selected, and we knew that it was selected because it was highlighted up here in the top left, we're able to change it to whatever we want. In this case, we want SWR. So that's looking pretty good. Now, if your scale along the right-hand side here is not what you're looking for, you're going to want to tap the screen. You're going to want to go back out. You're going to want to choose scale, and we're going to do scale division, and you're going to put in the y-axis divisions that you're looking for. And so for me, I'm looking for we'll say every 0.5, or maybe if I wanted to just change it, if I want to do 0.25, and then do this times 1. So now I'm getting 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.7, 2, 2, and all the way up to 3. So we're set as far as looking at the SWR and what that looks like up to a scale of 3 here. That's fine for the moment. Let's go with that. Now is the time that we actually calibrate. And to calibrate, we need to use the open, the short, and the load terminals that were given to us with the kit. And so the first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to go back out, back. We're going to tap on Cal, C-A-L, and I'm going to reset my calibration here. So I'm going to reset. I'm going to turn off the correction, and now I'm going to calibrate. Now I'm going to click on the, I'm going to actually, first before I click on open, I'm going to screw in the open terminal. Now the open terminal is the one, the open terminal is the one that has no, the open terminal is the one that has nothing in the center, right? There's no pin in there. All right, so I'm just going to tighten this up, hand tighten it, and that looks good, feels good. And now I'm going to tap on the open button. Now I know that open was successful because it has now highlighted the word open, and it's now moved to highlight in blue the word short. So it's telling me it's ready to go for the short terminal. So I'm just going to take that off here. And now I'm going to put the short in. And the short is the one with the peg on it, that little post on the inside. All right, so now that I have the short, I'm going to plugged in, I'm going to just tap on short. And now it's ready for the load. So finally, I'm just putting the load on there. And then I'm going to tap load. And that looks pretty good. So I think I am done. So I'm going to just take this off. And I'm going to tap done. All right, so it's looking pretty good, and I have to choose where I'm going to save it to. So I'm going to save it to the 0 slot. Okay, it's looking pretty good here. We've got our scale along the right-hand side. We have our 1 to 500 megahertz range that we're looking at, and feeling pretty good about this. Now, if I want to, I can save different ranges. So instead of 1 to 500 megahertz, I can change it and I can save it from, say, 7 to 7.3 megahertz into a different spot. So if I go back here and I go to stimulus, I do start, I can say, oh, well, I know that I'm going to be tuning a 7 megahertz antenna. So if I do 7M and I'm going to do a stop of so say 7.3 M, and so now my range is there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as well. So I'm going to tap on the screen. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to Cal, and I'm going to save. And I'm going to save this one in slot number 1. So now everything, including all of the calibration pieces of it, are saved, and they're saved inside of slot number 1 for this particular range. So now I could do the same thing if I wanted to do, say, for 14 megahertz. So if I go back and I go to stimulus and I go to start, and so if I say if I want to start at 14, no, not 17, if I go to 14 megahertz, and I want to do a stop at, we'll say 15 megahertz. So now I have from 14 to 15, and I can save that. I go back, and I go to, where is it here? It's calibration, and it's going to be under save, and I'm going to save that under slot 2. And so now it's all set. I can always change this at any time for any particular range that I want to. I can always check it again against any particular range. I can do that dynamically, but now I have a few ranges pre-stored, and it just helps me to be a little bit more prepared and go right to a particular range. All right, you should be all set. You're calibrated, you are ready to go to check the SWR of an antenna. So how do you do that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover in the next video, so stay tuned, go over to that next one, and check it out. Until then,